This video is carrying on from my first video about the instrument effects commands. In that video I did an overview of what you can expect to find on the M8 in respect of those commands, and today I'm going to go into some more specifics. Now the first two that I'm going to deal with are volume and pitch, and you'll find these on every single one of the instruments, no matter what modulator you are using. If that doesn't make sense to you, please look at the previous video I did and I'm sure it will. Now there are obviously 7 different instruments, and I'm not going to go through these for every single one of them, purely because it's going to take forever if I do that. So there are some effects commands that are instrument specific, and I will obviously have to do that. I'll have to change instrument and show you, but a volume and pitch and quite a lot of other ones that I'm going to show you today, we can just use one synth for this and it will be fine. And obviously it's going to be slightly different on other instruments, and you can explore that on your own. You don't need me to hold your hand with that, I think. So I'm using the WAV synth to demonstrate these first two and probably quite a few of the other ones as well. So the volume, VOL, this effects command, you'll find this on all instruments, all modulators. So this is an offset of the instrument volume. So I've got 4 notes on the 4 on beats of the bar. Let's have a listen to this. So the first one you can see on step 0, I've got the value set at 0, 0. So obviously that is no change in the volume the way it's set. Now if I go to the next one down, that is 7F, and 7F, if I hold the edit button down the bottom, you can see it says it's 127, which is relative to the normal volume. It's as loud as you can boost it, okay? So if we go to the next one, FF, this is bringing it down -1, so obviously hardly any change in the volume at all. And if I were to come down to the next one, which is D0, that is down by 48, and you can hear that fourth one is quite a bit quieter. Let's just run it again. If I change the top one to 0, 1, okay, that's the lowest amount I can boost it to. And if I come to 7F, that's the highest amount I can boost it to. If I go to FF, that's the lowest amount I can cut it by. And if I bring this down to 80, that's the most I can cut it by. And if I run it, you won't hear that last one because it's more or less off. Okay? And the good thing about these continuously variable type of controls is if I go one more on this, I've now gone from almost off to as loud as I can boost it. You don't have to go all the way back, you see? And don't forget you can go up and down in big chunks with the up and down buttons, and in ones with the left and right. So that is the volume effects command. Don't forget all these effects commands I'm going to show you today are tied in with the instrument, okay? So it's nothing to do with the sequencer, it's nothing to do with the effects on the mixer. This is all about the instrument. So if we look at the instrument I'm using, it's a WAV synth. It's just a very simple sound. In mod 1 here on this instrument, I'm using this AHD envelope, attack, hold and decay, very, very basic. I've got a tiny bit of hold and a bit of decay, and that's sounding like that. And down in the actual instrument page, I've called up a low pass filter. I've cut it a bit, put a bit of resonance on it, just so it sounds reasonable, so it's not hurting areas while we're doing this. Okay, so that is volume. Let's move on to our next one, which is pitch. I've done the same thing here. I've put 4 pitch effects commands here. I've set them all as 0, and this does pretty much as you would expect. It offsets the pitch in semitones. So at 0, 0, there's no change in the pitch. So if I was to go to 0C, you can hear that's gone up an octave. If I take this up to 18, that is 2 octaves above. You can see down below it says pitch 24. Hold that again. If you want to see this readout at the bottom, hold the edit button down. So we have the normal pitch, we have octave above and an octave above that. If we go to F4 on this last note here, and that is -12, an octave below. So we have normal, octave above, 2 octaves above, and 1 octave below. Very, very straightforward. One thing I will say is if you're using a sampler instrument, don't forget these notes over here are not notes as such. They act like launch buttons, launch pads for slices. So this pitch thing doesn't work in quite the same way, so just be aware of that. If you've got a sampler instrument and you're using the pitch function in these effects commands, it's not going to behave as you would expect. It's going to jump slices, not notes. Just be aware of that. So that is pitch, and so those two, volume and pitch, you'll find in every single instrument with every single modulator in the mods page. Now I'm going to deal with fine tune, F-I-N, and this offsets the note pitch from -1 to +1. And again, the warning about the sampler. I was using a sampler instrument the other day and I was using this and I was wondering what the heck was going on until I realised it was a sample and it wasn't going up in semitones or parts of semitones, it was going up in slices. So it will work fine on this WAV synth. And basically you can set it to go from a semitone down to a semitone above, and that's what I've done here. On step 0 I've got it set at 80, which is a semitone down. On step 4 I've got it set to 0, 0, which is not pitched at all. Same here on step 8, and then here on step C I've got it set to 7F, which is a semitone up. So it'll be a semitone down, then no pitch change, no pitch change, and then a semitone up. So now the whole point of this is of course that you can set it between these amounts, so you can really tune it down a bit or up a bit. So let's just tune this one up a little bit. You can probably hear it going up a bit. Let's listen now. And that sounds a little bit uncomfortable because obviously it is out of tune, so we'll set that back to 0. Right, good. So that is fine tune. Next one up is filter type, and this is sometimes spelled FIL and sometimes it's spelled FLT. Here it's spelled FIL for filter. This is the filter type. So if we look at the instrument page here, you see I've got a low pass filter set. In actual fact, it doesn't really matter if that is set to off. I could turn this off and it wouldn't matter, but I'm going to leave it on and I'll show you why in a moment. So I'm going to leave that as low pass. So here on step 0 I've got filter 01. So if I hold edit down, that is filter type low pass. Come down to step 4, filter 02, that is high pass, you can hear the difference. Filter 05 on step 8 is the low pass to high pass, and on step C 06 WAV low pass, I think that is WAV LP. So I've got 4 different filter types. So if I run this, now you'll notice this note down here on step E doesn't have a filter type in the effects commands. So what's going to happen with that? I'm sure you're way ahead of me. The filter type that I've got set here on the instrument page, namely low pass, that's what that one is going to adhere to. So any notes in this phrase that don't have this effects command will use whatever I've set or whatever you've set on your instrument page here. See? Okay, so that's filter. We're going to go on to our next one, which is cut. Now this is the cutoff amount. This value is relative to that set in the instrument page. So if that is set full on or off, here the cut effects command will only turn it down or up by so much. It's all about the green dot. Now normally I use the big font because my eyesight's not too good, but if I show you on the song page, I've got the theme set to uppercase, the smaller font, which is not a problem when you're using a display, a computer display, but on my M8 as I'm looking down on it, it's very small. And the reason I'm doing that is because the green dot is going to be very important here. So I've got some different cutoff points set here. So here we've got filter cutoff 48. And this is relative to what I've got set on the instrument page. This is down by 32. See, the first one is up by 48. This is down by 32, this is down by 48, and this is down by 64. So I'm closing the filter there, aren't I? If I run it, it's gradually closing up. Now if I go to the instrument page, and if you look at the cutoff, this is near the bottom, it's just highlight that, and I run the sequence, hopefully you can see that I've set the cutoff here to 8F, sort of just over halfway. Keep your eye on the green dot, because this is what the effects command is doing for the various notes on the phrase page. So it's above the setting I've got here and then goes below it. See? Go back to the phrase page. This first one on step note is boosting it by 48, so when we run it, it goes to the right of the blue line, and then all the ones that are lower than this are to the left of the blue line. See? Blue strip there. So if I were to bring this cutoff frequency down even more on the instrument page, then obviously everything has moved further down. So even though I've got the same settings here, 30, E0, D0, C0, it's all dropped a lot lower because the highest level I've got here is 5F. So it's boosting it from that and then cutting it from that. You see? Let's bring that back up again. Now obviously if you take it all the way up, you can't boost it because it's already as full up as it can go. See? So to hear this working, have this down a bit, like this maybe. And now you see how that works beautifully, doesn't it? And that is the cut effects command. So it's all about the green dot, as a lot of these will be. Let's do our next one, which is res, which is resonance. Same thing here, same 4 notes. Now resonance is quite subtle, isn't it? If we go to the instrument page, if you ever want to know what the default is, go to one of these parameters and press option and edit together, and in this case it's down to 0, but we'll set it at 80, sort of about halfway up obviously. Now watch the dot. So it's boosted, and then it's lower, and then it's right up, and then it's lower again. Let's slow this down a bit so we can see this a bit better. Keep your eye on the green dot. So it's set at 80 here, okay, and over here these are either boosting or cutting it from that point. And if we put in a note towards the end that doesn't have an effects command, that last one there, that C5 on step E, doesn't have an effects command. So what will happen to that is it will look at what the resonance is set to on the instrument page and it will adhere to that. So the value for this last C5 here on step E is going to be 80, the way it's set here on the instrument page. And if we watch the dot, it doesn't register, does it, there, because we're not cutting or boosting. So the green dot is all about the effects commands. So these are very neat little effects, and I'm sure you're already seeing ways you can use these to make your music more interesting. Let's load in a song that uses all 3 of those, the filter, the cutoff and the resonance. So here you can see I've used all 3 effects commands on all 4 notes, and we'll just put another note in down the bottom without anything on it just to show that we can do that. So it will look at the instrument page and it will see that I've got a low pass filter, cutoff 80, resonance 80. So that last note there, that's C4, let's make it C5 shall we, on step E, we'll use all those settings, but all these effects commands will govern the filter type, the cutoff point and the resonance accordingly, whether they're like this one here, filter type is low pass, and then it's high pass, and then it's low pass to high pass, and then it's WAV LP, low pass I think that is, and then various settings for the cut-off and resonance. Let's just run this. Hopefully you can see this isn't just a load of geekery and nerdery, it's stuff you can actually use in your music to stop it from getting boring. The main thing I would always say about sequences is that they are machines. They can be very boring, but you can kind of humanise them by introducing these effects commands. Right, let's move on to our next one, which is amp. So, usual thing, I've got the amp setting on different values. 33 is up 51, C0 is down 64, 05 is up a tiny bit on 5, and D1 is down by 47. So if I run this, now if we go over to the instrument page and look at the amp setting, we can see that it's set at 40. The default is 0, so obviously 40 is boosted. You can't really see much happening with the green dot, so that's why I boosted it to 40. Watch the green dot now. You see it jumping about all over the place. Boosting, cutting, boosting, slightly cutting. And that last one, there's no green dot, because that's not tied to an effects command, that last one. So that C6 on the end there is going to go with that value of 40 there. So the amp, if you don't know, it's just another volume control, boosts the volume. Be careful of it though, so it can introduce distortion, I think, if you go too high with it. Next up is the limiter setting. Now if we go to the instrument page and go to limiter, I've got this set on wrap. I've done that for a reason, and you'll see in a moment what that is. So if we come over to the phrase page, so I've got the usual thing, 4 notes with the limiter effects command on and 1 down here without it on. Okay, so this first one here on step 0 has got limiter setting 02, 02, which is fold. These are different limiter settings. You have to listen to these to hear what they do. This one is wrap, it's quite a noisy one. So this one is sin, which is the default one. Set this one to the same, and this one will be, now there's nothing on this, so it will look at the instrument page and it will use wrap, which is a limiter 03. So we go back to the phrase page, it will use the same setting as this one here. It's like I'd put 03 on this one, see? We'll just run it. I realise it's not terribly musical this, but at least I'm showing you how these things work, and you'll have to figure out how you can make it work. You won't use all of these, of course, but some of them you'll use more than others, I'm sure. By the way, if you want to change one of these, you may see that it's not changing down the bottom. If that happens, zero it out by pressing Option and Edit, then use Edit and Write, and then it will start going up and down through the various limiter settings. It's a funny little thing I found in that one. The next one is pan. So this is the way the sound appears in the stereo spectrum, the left and the right speaker. So if we go to this, and you can see, usual thing, 4 notes with a pan setting, 1 without, and I've got it hard panned right and left. So 7F is hard right, 80 is hard left. Let's just run this. And that's fairly obvious. Obviously you don't have to hard pan it. You could go to this amount here and you could bring it back a bit, and this one here you could bring it back a bit. You don't have to have it hard pan, I've just done it that way just to show you. Now if you're listening on headphones, that will be really clear to you the way it bounces from speaker to speaker. And of course the one down the bottom will come out of both speakers. This C5 on this step E has no effects command, so it will look at the instrument page, and the pan is set at 80, which is straight down the middle, equal amount on both speakers. Listen again. So that is pan, very, very straightforward one. Again, look at the dot by the pan on the instrument page. You'll see it bouncing from right to left. That last note where you haven't got an effects command, you think the green dot would appear in the middle, but it doesn't. This only works with the effects commands as far as I'm aware. See, it doesn't appear, does it? Okay, good stuff. So that's pan. Pretty straightforward, that one, I think. Next one is dry. One of the very first things I learnt on the M8 was something from Jeremy Blake, Red Means Recording, saying that the dry amount is a kind of volume control. Now by default it's set at CO, but I've got it set to DF on this. Let's just put it back to that. Okay, so this is a volume control. So don't turn your volumes up and down in the mixer, because obviously that's global, isn't it, for the 8 tracks. Do your volume settings on the instrument page and use a mixture of probably amp and dry. Dry is the main volume control. Okay, so this is the level of the dry signal against the wet signals of the chorus, delay and reverb, and we'll deal with those in a minute. And so this has got values between 0 and 255. So let's go to our phrase page and you'll hear different volumes here. So on step 0 we've got FF set, which is flat out 255, AF is 175, we've got FF again 255, and 9F is 159. There's obviously no minus amounts here, because if you bring this down to 0 and run it, there's nothing. So that note on step C, if I run it again, will have no volume. If the chorus or delay or reverb were turned up, we would hear something there on that step C note, but because we don't have any effects turned up here, we've got nothing coming out till here. So let's bring that back up a bit so we can hear it. I'm sure you know by now that this one down here that doesn't have an effects command, it will look at the instrument page and it will run at DF value, which is, you know, quite high up, as you can see from that blue strip. So if I turn this all the way down, there's no difference to these effects command notes, but this one down here, that's disappeared now because it's looking here and it's seeing the dry set to 0, 0. See? So let's turn that up a bit, run it again. And look at the green dot again, and nothing on that very last one. Okay, so that is dry. Now we're going to go into the effects sends now. The chorus, the delay and the reverb. So SCH is the send chorus. We'll go into the... So we've got SCH set here on 4 notes and nothing on that last note. We've got different values here. FF is 255, so that's full on. BF is 191, so you know it's quite a lot but not as much as that. 0, 0 is, it's nothing, see there's no chorus coming through there. And 9F is 159. So you'll hear different amounts of chorus coming through on this note. And obviously that last one doesn't have an effects command, so it looks here and it sees the chorus is set at B0, so it will go to that value. Watch the green dot. Different levels of chorus, you see. Now if I turn the dry all the way down, just above it, what we're hearing there is just the wet signal of the chorus. Obviously that may be what you want, but it's unlikely, although it's quite a good effect when you use it on the reverb. But let's just bring the dry up again. So that's that one. Let's do the next one on the list, which is delay. Send delay, the amount of delay you send out to the effect, the delay effect. So I've done just a couple here because the delay is quite busy, obviously. So I've done two with the delay on. This one is set full on. This one is set at 191, and down here we've got one without an effect. So on the instrument page the delay is on 0, so we shouldn't get any delay on that last note. Let's just run it. It's not easy to hear, I know, because the delay is still running on this note here. Let's just take this one out for a moment. Right, set the one out and we'll just run it again. So same idea completely as the chorus, but just using delay in this, and you've got values of 0 to 255. Okay, so we'll do the same thing with reverb. So I've done the same thing with the delay. I put reverb on these two here. So send reverb full on here, and then you've got send reverb just slightly turned up, which is turned up a bit more from that, I think. And then this one down here doesn't have any reverb. Go to the instrument page, the reverb's off, so this note on step C should be completely dry. Let's find out if it is. And what's quite a good effect with the reverb is if you turn the dry completely off, remember I did this earlier, but bring this right the way down, you get that little flood of reverb without the dry note coming in. It's rather nice, isn't it? I quite like that. So this note on C6 hasn't got an effect command, so it looks at the instrument page, it sees that the reverb is off. When the sequence reaches this note, it will be completely dry and there won't be any reverb. So you've got a lot of reverb, fair amount of reverb, no reverb. Okay. So all these effects commands underneath AHD, EA, AT, HO, DE and ET, envelope amount, envelope attack, envelope hold, envelope decay and envelope trigger. Okay, these will be different modulator by modulator because ADSR doesn't have hold, the drum envelope doesn't have attack or hold, the LFO doesn't have any of these. The trig envelope modulator is the same as the AHD, and the tracking doesn't have any of these. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to use the AHD envelope on the WAV synth for this. So I've got 3 notes here with different envelope amounts. This is the amount of level that's sent into the envelope as I understand it. So if I go to the instrument page, and I go up to the modulator page, the mods page, and you'll see if I run the sequence, watch the green dot on the amount, the AMT. See it jumping around, boosted, cut, and then nothing, because on that third note, usual thing, there's no effects command. So with this first one here, I've boosted the volume by 115, and here I've cut it by 47, and here there's nothing. So just go back to the instrument page and just go up to the mods page by holding shift and up. So if I bring this amount down actually on the mods page, now, bring it back up. It's relative to that, you see. So if I take it down too low, if I cut it, it's gone below audible level. So it's relative to that AMT amount. Okay, so that's envelope amount. The levels here, up to 7F increases the amount, and FF to 80 decreases the amount. So 7F, if I look at that, you can see down the bottom it says modulator 1 amount 127. See, so we know we've got that AHD in modulator 1 and it's boosting it by 127. This one down here, if we take this down to, I don't know, FF, should we go? So FF is decreasing the envelope amount by -1, and that can go down all the way to 80. It's all relative to the setting here on the mods page. So look at the green dot. You see the second one registers because it's lower than that. And that note there on the end, there's no effects command, so it looks here at the modulator page, sees that it's full on, and it will play full on when it gets there. So that C6 down on step D will be playing at the full amount. And notice there I'm just holding edit left and right, and you can go from as much as you can boost to as much as you can cut by one left and right movement. Very handy that, rather than having to go all the way back. Let's do the next one, which is the attack, envelope attack, which is AT. Done the same thing here, but different attack amounts. Attack is how quickly we hear the sound. I'm using the AHD modulator. This adjusts to, let's go to it and hold one down. This adjusts in phrases, steps and ticks. And obviously if it's a lowish amount, it'll only show ticks and steps. It only gets to phrases when you get a bit higher. So this one's 14 steps and 4 ticks. We could bring it up. So it's gone up to 1 phrase, 1 step and 2 ticks. Take it back again. This one here doesn't have an effect command for the attack. So we'll hear the notes seeping in at different levels. So the first one seeps in fairly quickly because it's set at 1 step. It takes 1 step for the note to reach its maximum volume. I call it seeping in. This one is going to take 14 steps and 4 ticks. And in fact that's still happening when this last note comes in. And so this looks at the instrument page because there's no effect command, and it sees that on the modulator page rather, the attack is 0. So that last note here will sound straight away, but it will sound while that second note is still seeping in because it's got a very long attack rate. So run it from the beginning. And we'll look at the dot. Short attack, long attack, and then it won't register on that third note because there's no effects command on that one. Right, let's go to the next one, which is hold, HO. Now HO is only on the AHD and trig envelope modulators, not on the others. This simply offsets the envelope hold time. Hold is how long the peak amplitude holds for after the attack portion of the envelope. So it's once the notes come in, it stays at that level and then it drops down, in this case to the decay level. So I've set one here at 09, which is 1 step and 3 ticks to hold for. This one here I've got it set for 4 steps and no ticks. This one, no effects commands. It'll look at the modulator page, which may I remind you is above the instrument page, and it will see the hold is set at 0, so there'll be no hold time on that last note, that third note. So we run it from the top. So short hold, long hold, no hold. That's hold, and it's peculiar to the AHD and trig envelope because on the ADSR you have just what it says: attack, decay, sustain and release. So you know, it's kind of cuts it down to a very simple envelope, which is actually very easy to follow, and I often use the AHD envelope. Let's go to the next one, which is DE, and this is the decay. Okay, that's the third item on that AHD. So I've done the same thing. I put a decay time of 1 step and 3 ticks. Here it's 4 steps, and then there's no effects command here. Let's see what this does to it. Let's run it. So the first one is only 1 step and 3 ticks, so it's very short. The decay is how long the sound takes to fade out after the hold portion of the envelope. It's a bit like the release in an ADSR envelope. Again, watch the green dot on the mods page. Look at decay up there. So short, longer, then it won't register because it's not on an effects command. Now I could lengthen this decay here, and it won't make any difference apart from that last note, which doesn't have an effects command. It doesn't have a decay effects command, so it looks at the modulator page setting, which is CO, which is quite high. So you have short, longer, and then much longer, because that's the CO. So let's go to our next one. Right, this is ET, phone home. This is envelope re-trigger. This is the last one of today. This re-triggers the envelope. Any value greater than 00 will re-trigger the envelope. You'll notice I put the effects command down here, but there's no note. Let's see what happens. Now, what's happening there, because I've set an ET, an envelope trigger, and I've set this level at 0.1, it can be anything above 0. If I take this down to 0, now listen to what happens. You won't hear the re-trigger, but if I put it on anything above 0, so just go to 0.1 is fine. Now, even though there's no note over here, it still will re-trigger because of this. And what happens is if we look at the instrument page, go up to the modulator. This is the envelope, attack, hold and decay. So if we bring the hold time up a bit, and we'll bring up the decay a bit more. Now, because this is longer now, that is still ringing on. So before the envelope had finished, so this ET1 here on step 6 re-triggered it, but now because I've set it longer, okay, the envelope hasn't finished, so that won't work. So I've got to take that back, bring this all the way down and this down, bring it up a bit. Now, by the time you get to step 6, the envelope has gone through and this re-trigger will work. I'm not 100% certain about this. I think I've got this right. It's quite a subtle effect, isn't it? And if we look at our database, we've got that on AHD, ADSR, drum envelope, haven't got it on LFO, we've got it on trig envelope, haven't got it on tracking, and same for the macro synth, sampler, FM synth. It's one that's common to it, pretty much everything, MIDI out and external, but not on those particular ones that I said before. Haven't got it on tracking, haven't got it on LFO. So that was a big one today, wasn't it? That was a massive video, and thank you very much. If you've stayed to the end, well done, you've done well. Use these videos for reference. I'm not thinking that people will go right the way through them. They've all got chapter markers. They're all labelled up pretty well, so you'll be able to find what you want. And don't forget to download this database, this table, because the link is in the description for this table. If you print this out, or just use it on your computer or your iPad, I've done it in 3 variations. I'm looking at it on the Numbers app on my Mac, but it's available for Excel and PDF. So if you use this along with the videos, this will really help you understand and use all these effects commands. So to recap today, I've done volume, pitch, fine tune, I've done filter, cutoff, resonance, amp, limiter, pan, dry, send chorus, send delay, send reverb, and I've done envelope amount, attack, hold, decay and trigger. So that was an awful lot, wasn't it? By my reckoning, I've done 18 of these instrument effects commands today, and I've done all the ones that crop up more than any others, so you know it's going to be a bit easier from now on. I'm not sure I'll do a video this long again, probably a bit too long, but like I say, use the chapter markers. If you got some value out of today, then please give this video a like and consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.